So number one, we first need to understand that a system of inequalities is just two inequalities working together, okay? So how do we solve them? We're just going to graph them and shade. Now what really matters is your overlap, okay? That's what really matters, your overlap. So let's take a look at the top equation. If you happen to have two colored pens, this is a great time to use different colored pens. So I want to look at this top equation, x is greater than -1. And remember, when you don't have y equals mx plus b form, when it's just x and a number, all you have to do is go to your x-axis and it's going to be a vertical line going through that number. You guys remember that? Like if I said graph, don't copy this down, but if I said graph x equals 3, all you got to do is go to your x-axis to 1, 2, 3, and you draw a vertical line right through there, okay? Or if I said graph y equals -1, you go to your y-axis and you go to -1 and you just draw a line right through there at -1 on the y, okay? So the x equals a number will be a vertical line, the y equals a number will be a horizontal line. I hope you guys remember that from graphing. Once again, x equals a number is a vertical line, up and down. Y equals a number is a horizontal line, left and right. Okay, so when you don't have y equals mx plus b form, you could remember those details and it'll be easy to graph. So let me erase this and jump right into this system of inequalities. So the top inequality in blue says x and -1. So go to your x-axis, go to -1, put a dot right there, and we know it's going to be a vertical line, right? But before drawing the vertical line, I need to ask myself, is this going to be a solid line or a dotted line? Dotted, right? So let's do a dotted line going right through there. Put some arrows on it. Okay, and now we need to shade in either one side of the blue line or the other side of the blue line. And we do that by simply testing a point. The easiest point to test is 0, 0, right? Unless the line actually goes through it, then you don't want to test 0, 0. So anyhow, if you plug in 0 for x and a 0 for y on that first inequality, there is no y, so just plug in a 0 for x. What will it say? It'll say 0 is greater than -1. What do you guys think about that? Is 0 greater than -1? Absolutely. Yes, 0 is greater than any negative number. So 0 is greater than -1. So this origin, it is an answer. That means that all of my answers are over here on this side. So watch this. I would just do straight lines from it and shade in. This is how I would shade in. Okay? Now let's do the other one. I want to do the other one in red. The other one says y and a number. So just go to your y-axis and go to that number, -3. So you got to kind of ignore what we just did right here. Go to the y-axis, go to -1, 2, and 3, and put a dot here. And we know that this is a horizontal line, totally flat. So is this going to be a solid line or a dotted line going through that red dot? Solid or dotted? Solid. So let's do a solid line, horizontal, going right through that red dot. And now I need to decide what area to shade on the red, what area to shade on what side of the red line. So I either shade in the bottom or the top, okay? So again, I'm going to test the point 0, 0, that green dot. I'm going to plug in 0 for x, which there is no x. I plug in a 0 for y, there is a y. So when I plug in 0 for y, it's going to say 0 is less than or equal to -3. What do you guys think about that? Is 0 less than or equal to -3? No, definitely not. So that means that it did not work in this case. So where are my answers at? On the bottom of the red line. So I'm going to shade in the bottom of the red line. Now, this is ugly, right? And I really can't do it lightly because the iPad, or maybe I could. Right now I can't. But you guys could do it lightly. And what you really want to represent is the overlap piece. So does it overlap right here? Heck no, there's nothing there. Up here, no, it doesn't overlap. Down here, it doesn't overlap. Right here, there's an overlap. So this little rectangle where the shades overlap, that's what you really want to show. So I'm going to do it in green. And that's the solution to the system. If you flip your paper over, you will see that this has a dark overlap, this bottom rectangle. This is the answer to the system of inequalities, nothing else. So technically, you could erase everything except this rectangular box. And this rectangular box specifically has a dotted line on this side of it, and then a solid line on this side of it, and it's shaded. Let's jump to number 3. So let's graph that top equation in red. Or did I use blue on the other one? I used red? Okay. So top equation in red, where does it cross the y-axis? 3. 1, 2, 3, right here. From that point, what's my slope? Up 1 over 1, right? Which would put me right here, and up 1 over 1 right there. So this line is right here, and it's going to be a dotted line, so I can't make it solid. But as you can see, it's too short, so I need to continue with the pattern backwards, going all the way through to the other side. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and continue with that pattern. And we know that this is a solid line or a dotted line? Dotted. So let's put some dots between the dots. And now I either need to shade in this side or the other side of that red dotted line. So I'm going to test the point 0, 0. 0, 0. 0 for x, 0 for y on that top red equation. If I plug in a 0 for y, it's going to say 0 is greater than 0 plus 3. And that's really just saying 0 is greater than 3. What do you think of that? Heck no. 0 is not greater than 3. So I know that this origin did not work right there. So the answers are obviously on the other side. Aha, the highlighter. It works better on the iPad. Okay, so we do the lines on this side because that's where the answers are at. And now let's go to the other equation. The other equation is, well, let me do this in blue. The other equation is y is less than or equal to -1. So you go to the y-axis, you go to -1, and you put a solid line right through that value because it's a solid line on the inequality. So let's go to the y-axis. Let's go to -1 and put a solid dot right there. And we said it's going to be a solid line right through it. So I'm just going to do a solid line right through that value. And then I need to test again the origin 0, 0 to see if it works. If it does work, if this does work, then I shade in the top. If it doesn't work, I shade in the bottom. So when I test 0, 0, that's going to say 0 for y is less than or equal to -1. There's not even an x to plug in. But what do you guys think about that? Is 0 less than or equal to -1? No, that's false. 0 is greater than any negative number. So I do need to shade in the bottom part of this blue line. So shading in straight lines. Now, the true answer is the overlap piece. So you could clearly see the different sections. There's this section up here that has the red one only. There's this section right here, this triangle that has nothing. And then you have this, this area that's in blue, and you have this area that's overlapped. This is the only answer right here, guys. So the answer is this triangle piece. So you need to really shade this in. I don't care if you get crazy on this shading, but that's the only part of your answer, that triangle. Let's try number 5, shall we? So number 5, the system of inequalities, it's not ready to graph yet. So what do?
Changing the y equals mx plus b.
Y equals mx plus b is correct. So let's take a look at this top equation, and I want to use a red ink on the top one. It's definitely not ready to graph. I need to get rid of that x. So I need to subtract x here. Maybe I shouldn't have circled it yet. I'm going to subtract x right here and subtract x over here. That way it'll be in y equals mx plus b form. So my new top equation in red is going to be y equals, or not equals, that inequality. That inequality is less than or equal to negative x minus 1. And now that top equation in red really is ready to graph. I want to do the same to the bottom equation, but I want to use a different color on the bottom equation. I want to use blue on the bottom. I want to get rid of the x by subtracting x and subtracting x, and my new equation will be y is greater than or equal to negative x plus 3. And now we have a system of inequalities that really is ready to graph. You might have to do this on the test Friday. So that top equation in red crosses at negative 1. From that point, I'm going to go down 1 over 1 because the slope is negative 1. So that's negative 1 over 1. So I need to go down 1 over 1. If it were positive 1, you'd be going up 1 over 1, but it's down 1, so you're going down 1 over 1. And you put the dots there, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and so on and so on. And you want to extend it the other way, use the same pattern, but backwards. And this is going to be a solid line because it does have a solid line running below the inequalities. There's a solid line right there, so it's solid. Now we either shade in the top or shade in the bottom, depending on where our answers are at. We're going to test the point 0, 0 to see if it works. Now you could use the original, x plus y is less than negative 1, or you could use a new modified red graph, whatever you prefer. I want to go with the original, plug in a 0 for x, and also a 0 for y. 0 plus 0 is 0, and that will say 0 is less than or equal to negative 1. What do you guys think about that? Is that true or false? False. So I shade in the other side. So I'm going to shade in the bottom side. And now let's go for the other equation in blue. The one in blue crosses the y-axis at 3 right here, and it goes down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and so on and so on. Backwards pattern. You have it from one side to the other. Now this is also a solid line. And once again, I'm going to test the point 0, 0. Okay? I want to plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, and I will use the original bottom equation. 0 here and 0 there. You could use this one if you want. 0 here and 0 there is going to be 0 is greater than or equal to 3. What do you guys think of that? Is 0 greater than or equal to 3? Heck no. So we know that, again, the origin did not work. So with regards to the blue line, where are the answers at? Below or above? Above. So we're going to shade in the top part of that blue line. Now, keep in mind, guys, that we are looking for the overlap piece. The overlap piece tells us where our answers are at. So is there an overlap piece? No. So what does that really mean about this system of inequalities? It means that there's no solution. Whoa, sorry. No solution. No solution. There is no overlap piece. And if you flip the paper over, you'll see that it does not overlap. So there is no solution there. Okay, guys, let's jump to number 7. Now, number 7, I want to do the top equation in red, and it's ready to graph. The slope of the top equation is up 1 over 1, and the b value is 1. So it crosses at 1, and from that point, 1, you're going to go up 1 over 1, so you're going to go up 1 over 1. And you could continue the pattern of up 1 over 1, and you could go backwards as well, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Anyway, you want to go all the way from one side to all the way to the other. And then after that, before you draw your line, first you have to decide if it's solid or dotted. And this top equation, top inequality, is definitely not a solid line, it's a dotted line. So we're just going to fill in the gaps with some dots or some dashes. And then after that, you want to test a point to see if it works. If you test 0, 0, plugging in a 0 for y and a 0 for x, it's going to say 0 is greater than 1. So 0 is not greater than 1. So that does not work. So that means that the origin does not work, which means you need to shade in the other side. So I recommend a light shade, maybe some straight lines coming from that dotted line this way. And now let's graph the other one in blue. This other one has a b value of positive 1 as well, so it also crosses here. And from that point, it goes down 1 over 1, and you could continue down 1 over 1 and down 1 over 1, extend it all the way through, and you could go backwards with the same pattern. And the bottom equation will be solid because it does have a solid line underneath it. So let me draw a solid line right through it. And then after that, you need to shade in either this side of the blue line or this side of the blue line. And if you test the point 0, 0, once again, let me do it in green this time. Let's see if it actually works. On the bottom equation, plug in a 0 for y and a 0 for x. It's going to say 0 is greater than or equal to 1. And again, that's going to be false. 0 is not greater than or equal to 1. So it does not work. So again, the origin is not an answer. So the answers are on the other side of the blue line. So I would lightly shade in the other side of the blue line. Now again, what really matters when you do systems of inequalities is the overlap piece. So if you look at each piece, right here there's a triangle with nothing in it. Right here there's a triangle with just red. Right here there's a triangle with just blue. Right here the triangle has the overlap piece. So that's what really matters. So I would really shade in this triangle up here. That is your solution. And that's how we show answers to systems of inequalities. You have to really shade in the overlap piece. Let me do another one. Number 9. Top, I want to go in red. So the top one, it crosses the y-axis at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. From that point, I look at my slope, which is up 2 over 1. But if I go up 2, I'll be off the graph over 1. I'm going to put the dot there anyway, up 2 over 1. However, I don't want to be off the graph. I'm going to use that same pattern but backwards. Instead of up 2 over 1, I'm going to go backwards, over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2. So with the pattern backwards, instead of going up 2 over 1, we're going backwards, over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2, put a dot right there, and so on, all the way through. This will be a dotted line, not solid, because there is no solid line underneath the inequality. And then you could test the point 0, 0, see if it works. So you plug in 0 for y and 0 for x on the top equation. It'll say 0 is less than 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 4 is 4. So 0 is less than 4. What do you think of that? It's true, it does work. So we do shade in this side. So I will shade in lightly. And the reason why we shade in lightly is because we really want to darken in the overlap piece. Now the other equation in blue, that one crosses the y-axis at positive 1. Then from that point, I go up 1 over 1 because the slope is 1 over 1. And you continue that pattern of up 1 over 1 going all the way through the graph. And then you use that pattern backwards. And this one is solid because it does have a solid line underneath the inequality. So now we need to shade in either this side of the blue line or up here of the blue line. So what I need to do is test the point 0, 0 again. And when I test 0 for x and 0 for y, it's going to say 0 is greater than or equal to 0 plus 1. Now what is 0 plus 1? It's just 1. So is 0 greater than 1? No. So I need to shade in the other side. Right? I don't want to shade in this side. I want to shade in the other side of the blue line. So I'm going to shade in the other side lightly up here, the top part of the blue line. And now what really matters, the reason why I do it lightly is because I really need to shade in the overlap piece. And the overlap piece is this little thin slice of pizza right here. Got it?